Well, Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko flew on Air Force One with President Trump today as he visited the Phoenix area, and our very own Fox 10 Phoenix's Kari Lake talked with her about what happened on board the president's plane, coronavirus opening Arizona, testing for antibodies, and so much more. And we have it all for you right here on News Now.
I'm Kari Lake with Fox 10 in Phoenix, and I'm so honored to have Congresswoman Debbie Lesko joining us from Arizona's Congressional District 8. Thank you for being with us today and talking about what's going on. You had a crazy day, not a crazy day, but a fun day, I imagine, because you got to fly on Air Force One to Arizona. Tell us about that experience.
Thanks for having me on, Kari. It was fantastic. In one word, awesome. It was my first time ever flying on Air Force One. And I mean, who wouldn't want to fly on Air Force One? And besides, I got to speak one-on-one with President Trump about Arizona and how we're doing in Arizona. And so we're in a conference room, and I was with Martha McSally, Congressman Paul Gosar, myself, the Labor Secretary Scalia, and the CEO of Honeywell. And so we were all in this conference room together. President Trump came in twice in the conference room to speak to us. And Mark Meadows, who's the president's chief of staff, came in several times to speak to us. And it was just, for me, it was an awesome experience. And having the chance to talk to President Trump about Arizona and what's happening on the ground in Arizona, it's just invaluable. So yes. It was, in one word, awesome.
How do you, why do you think he came to Arizona? This is his first trip, by the way, since the coronavirus really hit. Why do you think he chose Arizona?
You know, I can only guess. I wasn't on the inside of why he chose here, but it probably multiple reasons. First of all, he likes Arizona, and Arizona's, for the most part, like him. But also Martha McSally is in a swing district. It's an important seat, so it's important to showcase Arizona and Martha McSally, and also to showcase Honeywell. Honeywell has a large presence in Arizona, and for them to step up to the plate and set up this N95 manufacturing plant, which, by the way, I talked to the CEO of Honeywell, and he said normally it would take 9 months to set up that production line, and they did it in 5 weeks. So kudos to them. So I think it's a combination of all of them. Arizona is an important place, and we're very valuable, and we have Honeywell here manufacturing N95 masks.
I got to go back to Air Force One really quickly. I've never been on Air Force One. What stands out? Were there some little tiny moments where you thought, whoa, pinch myself, I can't believe this is happening? Or little things that you noticed inside Air Force One that maybe surprised you?
The whole thing is pinch yourself, right? I mean, my life has just been totally blessed. I didn't think I was going to be a congresswoman, and here I am serving in the United States Congress. I've been able to go to Camp David, stay overnight in one of the cabins in Camp David. I've been able to go to the Lincoln Room with President Trump as my personal, he was the guide. And now on Air Force One, I mean, just when I think my life isn't as I always think it's surreal. I always pinch myself. It's amazing. I've been very blessed. Boy, I mean, I think just when I walked up to Air Force One, and I was like, wow, this is cool. This is so cool. And so we had a little bit of time. We got there before President Trump got on the plane. And so we took all kinds of pictures, Martha McSally, myself, and Paul Gosar. I spoke with some of the military people that were on the base of the plane. One of them spoke to me and said, great job on the impeachment, trials. And, it's still amazing to me that people recognize me and, realize what I do, because I'm just a mom. I'm a mom that got involved in her community, got involved in her schools, and then one thing led to the other. I got ran for the Arizona House, got in the Arizona House and the Arizona Senate. I mean, my goodness, I think it was 2004, I was a volunteer with the Republican Party I was their volunteer voter registration chairman for Maricopa County. And the White House called me when President George W. Bush flew in to Arizona. And I was one of those people in the line to greet him. I was way at the end. Like, I think I was second from the end. Nobody knew who the heck I was, but I was so excited. And from going from that to volunteering to flying on Air Force One, I mean, I can't describe it. It's just a blessing.
Right there is a reason for people to get involved. You never know where it's going to take you.
That's right.
And, you know, a small bit of volunteering or involvement can lead to amazing things. Let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus, or we're actually going to talk a lot about it because there's several angles I want to hit up. I want to talk about reopening and how we need to do that. A lot of people feel we need to do it already. Maybe we should have pushed sooner to reopen. And the governor's been getting quite a bit of pushback from businesses who think he has been too slow. There were a lot of protesters last week, and some of them asking to recall the governor. Do you think it's been too slow, our reopening?
You know, I'm not going to second guess the governor. He has more data available to him than maybe I have, and he has to balance everything. I mean, think of it. Let's say he reopened too early, and then a whole bunch of people got sick, more people died. I mean, I wouldn't want that on my conscience. Yeah. So I think, you know, I think that his approach, some of the things he said about, you know, fining people and taking away their liquor license, I don't think that that was probably the right approach. But I do think that now he's reopening the society, and he's trying to do it in a fashion that is healthy, that keeps us all safe. And so I'm not going to second guess him. I think he's doing a good job under the circumstances. And I think President Trump is doing a really good job under the circumstances. I mean, he gets beat up over the head. It doesn't matter what he does. First, it was the ventilators, you know, and so he made sure that New York and every place else had enough ventilators. He often says not one person in America that needed a ventilator didn't have a ventilator. He made sure there was ventilators. Then he made sure that we were getting enough masks. I mean, it took a while, but the whole world was in competition for this personal protection equipment, and most of it's made in China. China has us over a barrel. And if there's anything good, well, there are some good things that came out of this, but one good thing is that Americans now realize that we cannot be so reliant on China for our antibiotics, for our essential personal protection, masks, gowns, those type of things. Mm-hmm. We need to bring back manufacturing to America, especially for essential products. We can't let China control us on that.
Do you think that we're going to start seeing that sooner rather than later, as in before the election, where we're actually seeing companies bringing their manufacturing back to America?
Well, I think it's already started that we're bringing more manufacturing back to America. And in fact, President Trump campaigned on that, and he won the election, and he's been bringing back companies to America and to Arizona. And of course, we lowered our taxes because our corporate taxes were uncompetitive. So, you know, companies were leaving. So yes, this is already happening, but certainly in Congress, especially among the Republican members, there is a growing interest to bring manufacturing of critical supplies, including antibiotics and other drugs, back to America. We cannot be so reliant on China. And it's really, you know, if you kind of look at what China's all been doing, is trying to take over different sectors, different countries, different aspects of countries by investing in them, lending other countries money. This is scary. They're having a way of trying to take over and doing it in a way that's not using maybe the military, but they're doing it in other ways. And so the good thing about this is that Americans are waking up, and we need to bring manufacturing of essential products back to America.
We saw that members of the Senate have gone back to work, and there's been some reluctance for Congress, for the members of the House to do so. What are you projecting or seeing happening? Will that? be
I hope we
happening?
go back to work soon. You know, I think it's time. We have healthcare workers, we have grocery store workers, we have everybody else working. I think Congress needs to go back to work. Now, some of my Democratic colleagues, I hear there's a huge reluctance by a number of the members of my Democratic colleagues. They're nervous about going back to work, and they have spoken out because we were supposed to go back this week originally. And then a number of their members spoke out and said no. Now they're trying to pass proxy voting. So the Democrats are pushing a proposal that if some of the Congress members are there in Washington, D.C., that they can vote on behalf of other Congress members that don't show up in Washington, D.C. Republicans are opposed to that. We think we just need to get back to work. And, you know, there may be some instances if somebody has COVID-19 themselves or they're quarantined or something like that. I could maybe see it for that, but not for everybody. I just don't think that that's the right thing to do. I don't think it sets a good example, and it totally undoes the entire history of America's precedent. I mean, we went to Congress during the wars. I mean, I just think we need to get back to work.
Well, we've learned a lot about the virus, and 2 months ago we didn't know. It was very scary. Now we know. I mean, you could wear a mask, you could protect other people, you could wear gloves, you can limit your exposure, social distance, wash hands, take temperature checks. I'm even reading some scientific studies where you can take the hydroxychloroquine as a preventative medicine to kind of ward that off. Now, I've read a lot of studies on that drug. It seems to be very controversial. And you've heard the president say that maybe it's controversial because he has talked about it. It seems like an inexpensive way to address some of the illness that we have out there. Are you getting any information that the average general public isn't getting on that?
You know, I'm getting, well, we have conference calls with top agency officials, and Dr. Fauci says the same thing that he does on TV, is that it needs to be studied and that type of thing. But certainly, I mean, President Trump never said it was the cure-all. But he did say, listen, if somebody is in bad shape, why not try it? And there's been cases, we've heard them, cases where people have gotten better taking the hydroxychloroquine and the combination with the antibiotic. And so, hey, to me, it's like, what do people have to lose? Now, we also see other medicines that are showing great promises. So to me, I'm with the president. It's like, okay, if you have something that a number of people have said has helped them, and doctors have been out there saying this has helped them. I think I agree with the president. I think it's just him. If he recommends it, the liberals and the Democrats are opposed to it. And that's the way it is. I mean, it's very unfortunate, but he could be doing the best things ever, and they would say it's terrible. And it's such a bad environment in Washington, D.C., so partisan. It's really kind of sad.
And I don't think it's going to improve before the election. Something tells me it could ramp up. I only ask about that drug because I recently watched a full report. I think it was a CBS report on Turkey. They have the most cases, or almost the most cases, of coronavirus in the Middle East, but relatively few deaths. And their protocol is that they haven't shut the economy down. They have basically quarantined people who fall into the very high risk category, the elderly who have one or more conditions that could be cause death. And they've had everybody else go to work, asking people not to kind of run around on the weekends as they normally would. Right. Pardon me. But they also have them, as soon as they get ill, they start that cheap medication, hydrochloroquine, up and kind of nip it in the bud. And it made me realize they took a very measured approach, but really specific. And I feel like here in the States, we're all over the place. Some cities are prescribing certain drugs. Some are saying, wash your hands for 20 seconds. Others, wash your hands for a minute, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. We're all over the place. Do you think that we needed to be a little more coordinated in how we handle this shutdown? In
Well,
hindsight.
I'm not an expert and I'm not a doctor, but certainly I think it's valid I saw Dr. Birx this morning before I boarded on Air Force One, and it's certainly something I will bring up to her and ask her about, because they're more of an expert in this field than
Right.
I am. I mean, I read about it and I hear about it from people like you and others in the media, and when I get on conference calls and those type of things. But if Turkey's doing something that has market statistics that show they're doing a better job, why not copy them? I mean, this has just been you're right. There's been, at first, we were not supposed to wear masks, then we were supposed to wear masks. I mean, it's very confusing, quite frankly.
Well, and you can go to the grocery store. You can go to the
Yes.
grocery store, but you can't go to church. Our kids can't go to school. It's just, I feel that there's a lot of confusion. And maybe because there is some politics at play. I don't know.
I think it's because it's new, and everybody at the beginning of this, there was dire predictions that 3 million people were going to die in the United States, I think was the first prediction. And so, I mean, everybody was scared to death. And it was unpredictable. Nobody knew. It was a new virus. And as I think you've said, or others have said, China didn't give us the data. So we're kind of flying blind without having a lot of data. And so I think under the circumstances, I think the administration did a good job. And I think Governor Ducey is doing a good job. And now he's opening up the businesses. I mean, for goodness sakes, I can't wait to get my hair done. I'm going to call my hairdresser and see if, make sure she's feeling good and get my hair done.
Oh yeah, I've already got my appointment. I definitely, the minute that came out, made an appointment. I can't keep cutting my own hair. It's not working out. And a lot of people are feeling that way. Let's really quickly talk about the economy. You've heard the president say it's going to snap back rather quickly. Is that him being optimistic?
I don't know. Sometimes in the past, I've thought about it, what he says, and I go, oh, I don't know about that. And then he turns out to be right. But my personal opinion is it's not going to snap back just overnight. I mean, certain things are going to take some time, and it's because people are people. They've been scared to death because nonstop, the national media has been talking about New York, New Jersey, showing pictures of people dying. And that's not the same thing that happened in Arizona or in other places of the country, but that's what the national media always kept showing, the worst case scenarios. And so it scared the heck out of people, including me, for a while. And so I think it's going to take some time for people to get back to, is it okay to go back to a restaurant and eat, at a table next to somebody? Is it okay to go on an airplane and sit next to somebody? And so it's gradually going to happen. I don't think it's going to be overnight. But I hope it is. Mm-hmm. So we got, this is bad. So many people are hurting. We need to reopen society
and get people back to work. It's good for the mind, I think, to get back out as well. I'm like you. I've gone from, oh my gosh, dire situation. I'm very scared. I think we've all gone through that wave of emotions. This is the worst thing we can imagine. Oh, we can get through it. Oh, it's bad. Yeah. I think taking that first step is going to be really big. And I think people are looking forward to it for the most part. Really quickly, I just saw a report that Supreme Court Justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been hospitalized for an infection. Are you hearing any new information on that?
No, I've been so busy today. I started my day flying on Air Force One, went to Honeywell, came home, and basically got on this with you. So I have not heard it.
You haven't heard anything. Okay. No. I guess that's it for you. I wanted to talk to you. One more thing, actually, I almost forgot. You took the antibody test. How did that go? And what was the result, if you don't mind sharing it?
Oh, sure. So I went on Saturday morning to the Core Institute, which, is a well-known institute that does a lot of orthopedic surgery and physical therapy. But they did the antibody test, and I heard about them. And so I was like, first of all, I was curious, have I had this before? And second of all, I thought, well, if I have had it, then maybe I can donate my plasma and help somebody else, you know? And so I went, it was super easy. I just went online. I put in my, name and that type of thing, set up an appointment, drove into their parking lot at the Core Institute, and all they did was take a little finger prick, and that's it. They took a little bit of blood, and within 10 minutes, I knew the answer, and it was negative. Now, on that one, I was hoping it was positive, that I already had the antibodies. But, hey, at least I'm not sick. I got tested before I went on Air Force One, and, I don't have it. But I got to still keep being careful because, since I don't have the antibodies, I could get it.
Yes, that's true. Is there anything, that you want to add, or anything that actually keeps you up at night with all that's going on in the world? What's kind of the thing you worry about the most?
Well, I'm a pretty calm person, and so there's not a lot that keeps me up at night. I'm a believer in God and a Christian, and I know that God's in control. And so I know that it's all going to work out. We're going to have our valleys, we're going to have our peaks, but in the end, it all works out and God's in control. So I'm pretty calm and feel good about that.
Yeah, that your faith is very helpful in times like these. I'm finding myself as well. Well, I really appreciate your time, Congresswoman Lesko, and thank you so much. I know you've had a busy day. You're probably tired, and we appreciate you spending so much time with us.
Thank you so much, Kari. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you to Kari Lake for that interview. Again, if you do want more information on Arizona's reopening, they're slowly starting to let people dine in restaurants, go to those beauty salons and the barbers, as you heard them talk about, and also our retail stores. That's all happening this week into next week. You can go to fox10phoenix.com. Also, for 24/7 coronavirus coverage, you can head on over to coronavirusnow.com.